Madam President, what was it? 1, 2, 3 hours ago, Thomas Tobé on behalf of the EPP was talking about the victims of communism. The only difference between us is that we never make difference between victims and victims. It should not be controversial to assert that killing, starving, mutilating and slaughtering children constitute a clear violation of international law. That is what is happening right now in Gaza, what the far-right government of Israel is doing against the children of Gaza. Make no mistake, history will judge each person that refused to act to end the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Hate is not the opposite of peace, apathy is. Apathy equals complicity. Those who don't want to be complicit to the genocide on the Palestinian people must demand suspension of the EU-Israeli Association Agreement now.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioner, Minister. You would have read the same headlines as me. Israel wants to have 600,000 Palestinians moved to a camp in Gaza. It's like 3 times the size of Charleroi, 3 times the size of Liège in a camp. The ultimate objective, in the Israelis' words themselves, is to actually expel these immigrants, these Palestinians, from the Gaza Strip. Israel is now reopening the worst pages of European colonial history. Let us not forget, well before the horrors of the Second World War, colonial Spain had already established concentration camps in Cuba with hundreds of thousands of people dying from poverty and famine and illness. The UK had them in South Africa, the Germans in Namibia, and the French as well. So it's a concentration camp, and if that doesn't shake your support for Israel, then that is unacceptable. In the meantime, we've been fighting for human rights. We've been fighting against colonialism. But you stay faithful as partners to Israel, in fact, privileged partnerships that some of you continue to defend. That's unacceptable today. Let us sanction Israel urgently.
We're now at a point where gunning down hungry people as they desperately try to get aid is a daily occurrence. There was international shock the first time, but just like with the bombing of the first hospital, when there are no consequences for Israel, they are emboldened and they carry on. 700 Palestinians have now been slaughtered at aid sites. Baby formula is blocked. They are literally starving babies to death, and still the EU does not act. In fact, instead of holding Israel to account, President von der Leyen has Netanyahu, a war criminal, on speed dial, and she's actively encouraging to carry out illegal strikes on Iran. There is more outrage from EU leaders about artists calling out a genocide than there is against those who are actually carrying out that genocide. Solidarity with Palestine is being criminalised, and the EU is sacrificing its civil liberties to support Israel. But Palestinian solidarity grows stronger every day. The people won't be silenced. The people are demanding suspension of trade with Israel. The people are demanding sanctions against Israel. The people are demanding an end to their complicity with Israel's war crime and its genocide, and they are demanding that their EU leaders act and listen to them.
I stand here rather desperate, to be honest, especially also listening to the Commission and the Council. But let's try one more time to find unity on one point, on humanitarian values, empathy and respect for lives of innocent people. We here should, as a minimum, agree to the need to open Gaza, immediate and unrestricted access of humanitarian aid, food and medical supplies into Gaza by independent, international, respected organizations. This Parliament, it seems, and for sure a large majority of our citizens, wants this. Our citizens have lost respect for Europe's inaction over Gaza and Europe's double standards. There are no excuses. After all the well-documented violations of international law, the lack of recommendation to suspend all or part of the agreement is a violation of the Commission's role as guardian of the treaties, and the HRVP knows that. And equally, the Council's lack of action is inexplicable and undermines protection of rules-based international order. We should find the political resolve to ensure that Europe acts now to open Gaza. Thank you.
The European Union stands at a crossroad. The recent reports confirms what we can no longer ignore: grave violations of human rights by Israel, including attacks on hospitals, the blockade of humanitarian aid and forced displacement. Over 17,000 children have been killed in Gaza, according to UNICEF today. There is no doubt, colleagues, these acts breach Article 2 of the EU-Israel Association Agreement, and international courts have spoken. So if we fail to act now, we not only undermine our own laws, we erodate our global credibility. Therefore, I call for the immediate suspension of the Association Agreement. No trade, no cooperation, no impunity. This until the international law is upheld. Let us prove that our values are not for negotiation. And colleagues, if this is not happening, maybe we really should give a strong signal and not vote for the discharge of the Council in October.
We bore witness to the very grotesque image of Benjamin Netanyahu presenting Donald Trump with his nomination papers for the Nobel Peace Prize. The words that come to mind are beyond parody, beyond ridicule, perversity, incomprehensible. Because on the same day, Israel Katz, the Minister for Defence, proposes that to move Gazans to an enclosed area in Rafah, perhaps satirically referred to as humanitarian city. George Orwell could not have invented this kind of language. Described as well by Israeli academics and lawyers as, I quote, a blueprint for crimes against humanity, close quote. Eventually, all Gazans will have to go there. Even the professor of Jewish history at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Amos Goldberg, said the plan was for, and I quote, the creation of a concentration camp or a transit camp for Palestinians before they expel them. I think the one thing that we can agree on in this divided House is that the Nobel Committee in Oslo will not dwell too long in those nomination papers.
Every day in Gaza and across Palestine, people are injured, killed, displaced. Land is stolen, humanity denied, life suppressed. How did we get to this point? And what is our responsibility? This is not just a matter of international politics. It is also a matter of political economy, of capital, greed and profit. Private corporations actively fuel and profit from the Zionist settler colonial project, the occupation and the ongoing genocide. This is the key message of the latest UN report by Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese. A powerful capitalistic machine of profit is feeding destruction. Arms manufacturers like Lockheed Martin, Leonardo, and Thales supply the weapons and fuel military escalation. Tech giants such as Google, Amazon, and Meta enable mass surveillance and repression with no ethical restraint. Construction and machinery firms like Caterpillar and Volvo deliver the bulldozers that demolish Palestinian homes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a coordinated system of profit. This is racial colonial capitalism. Genocide continues because it is profitable, but we have a duty. The European Union must suspend the EU-Israel Association Agreement now.
So when looks at the Jewish heritage of Karl Marx and Rosa Luxemburg, put that aside, and we have to make it quite clear that Israel is a country which is going to have to be dealt with in a very, very, very stiff fashion. Israel is conducting genocide right now. Children, women are being killed. Over the last 6 months, it's been clear what's been going on in Palestine. A record number of people have been killed in a very, very short period of time. And Washington is helping out. and von der Leyen seems to show as well even understanding for all of this, what's going on, what Israel is doing. But we have to say quite clearly that Rome, Berlin, and Tokyo were the axis of evil during the Second World War. Here we have a new axis between Washington, Tel Aviv, and it's quite clear that what we're seeing right now is the genocide of the 21st century. There are sanctions against Russia, but with regard to the Israelis, nothing is being said, not a single word. Nothing has been done.
I'm always surprised when I hear the far right talking about the pain on the Israelis, but can't understand the losses for the Palestinians in a situation where it becomes more and more desperate for the Palestinian people in Gaza, on the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. Israeli bombardment are leaving Gaza in ruins. People without homes, without hospitals, without schools. It's a collective punishment of a whole people for the terrorist attack on the 7th of October. Israel is blocking everything: food, water, medicine, fuels, and in the few distributions there is, they are being shot at. People are going hungry, they are being killed, and we're just looking at it. And that's why the resistance against the war is growing in Europe and in Israel and everywhere, in order to get the fighting to stop and to get the hostages home. We have to make the Israeli government stop the bombardments.